Hey everybody, welcome back to Jackson Jetsetting. Today I'm vlogging my 2-night voyage on the Norwegian Joy over to Great Stirrup Cay out of Miami, Florida. Flew out of Phoenix, Arizona. I wanted to see how a 2-night voyage really feels on NCL. I've been on a 2-night voyage in the past and actually quite enjoyed it. It is a quick trip, admittedly, but it's really nice to get out there into the Bahamas just over a quick period of time. I started my trip in Phoenix, Arizona at the Phoenix airport, tried to get into the Sapphire Lounge, which is a pretty new lounge here in Phoenix, and was shut out, so I settled on my Centurion Lounge access, so it's always good to have a backup here. Gate was pretty busy, but it was looking only about 10 or 15 minutes late into Miami today. Quick and easy flight, and arrived around 10 p.m. into Miami airport, so a quick trip indeed. This is the night before my cruise. I was staying over at the Hyatt Centric Brickell. You can check out a full review of that on the channel. It is a pretty decent option, pretty close to the port. I was able to enjoy a little dinner right when I got in, a little to-go action here. Some really good Cuban food. And the next day was able to explore a little bit of Brickell before getting on board the Norwegian Joy. I do recommend flying in before your cruise in Miami. There's just always some sort of weather delay or something else going on. That flying in the day of your cruise is definitely a risk. For me, it's kind of necessary that I have to fly in the night before because we are so far away from Miami. But a really nice room that they upgraded me to as a globalist. I was really happy with it. Plenty to do in the Miami area if you're looking to stay a few more days before or after your cruise. Of course, booking the right resort with the perfect resort pool or even beach access is definitely key if you're not someone who heads over to Miami often. For me, Brickell is perfectly nice. It's lovely on the water, no beach access or anything like that, but didn't really need it on this trip. So after a nice healthy breakfast, some avocado toast, I headed back up to the room to give you a few of my thoughts. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Miami, and today is Embarkation Day on the Norwegian Joy for my very short 2-night cruise. I'm excited to get on board, go check out NCL's private island for the first time. It's been almost 10 years since I've been on board a Norwegian ship, way before I started this channel, so I'm excited to see how things have changed a little bit, get a little taste of NCL right now. 2-night cruise, not necessarily the best indicator of how a cruise line operates, but still good opportunity for me to just check things out, especially going to visit that private island in the Bahamas. This morning I have a terminal arrival time between 9:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. So we're gonna go over there around 9:30, try and get on board as early as possible and get all of the things I need to book out of the way. I want to definitely book go-karts on this cruise. It's a short cruise and I know there's limited spots, so I want to grab one of those. Get a Tinder time for tomorrow because Great Stirrup Cay doesn't have a pier for the ships quite yet. They're constructing one right now, which is going to be a big help, but you got to use Tinders in the meantime, and that can be really tough on these bigger ships. So let's grab an Uber and head on over to the port. The ride from Brickell over to the port only takes about 10 or 15 minutes depending on traffic. You take the bridge over to the port, but there is a tunnel if you're heading from the airport or points a little bit further north. Of course, South Beach is also easily accessible to the port as well. The Norwegian custom-built terminal was something I was excited to enjoy, but turns out that the terminal was not in use for the Norwegian ship. Actually, an MSC ship was in there, so I thought that was kind of strange. Really bad traffic getting in. I ended up just jumping out of my Uber and walking over to Terminal C, which is where my ship actually was. Very quick process for checking in, less than 3 minutes to get to an agent. And I thought it was really interesting. They gave me a boarding card as well as my room key. So it's a little different than other trips that I've taken with other lines. Usually you have to wait till your stateroom's ready to get your key. Comfortable waiting area. It was not so busy when I first got there, but then it got really busy and we were waiting and waiting. About 30 minutes before boarding actually started was when everyone stood up, so I decided to stand up, but really didn't end up walking on board until an hour and 45 minutes after I arrived at the port to check in, which I think is definitely ridiculous. Other cruise lines have figured this out. I don't think that you should tell people to get there super early just to wait. So overall, I would say don't arrive at the port until 11 a.m. with Norwegian. Once all that was done, though, it was a very easy process, very standard process, and getting on board the ship. My favorite day is Embarkation Day. There's just so much adventures left to have in your vacation, and they had a nice little sanitary moment there, which I liked. spraying everyone's hands, getting rid of some germs. And they handed me a freestyle daily, which is nice. So they still have printed schedules for all the activities on board. They also have it in the app, but I didn't find the app all that useful on this trip. Wanted to go find how to get a tender reservation, but first went over to the muster station, which was super easy to do. Beautiful day in Miami for sailaway today. They had a music cruise before and after ours, so they were craning in a bunch of equipment for that, which is pretty cool to see. Norwegian does have a tech solution for booking these tenders at some of the public screens, but was never able to get it to work. Very annoying, but got it sorted out at guest services, and then found the beverage package option on board. I felt like it was a very reasonable price at $76.80 after taxes and gratuity. The way beverage packages work on NCL is that each menu kind of tells you what is included in what package you purchase. So I was able to pretty much get anything I wanted under $15. If you choose a drink that's maybe more expensive than that, then you just pay the difference, which I thought was very reasonable. And the beverage packages do work on shore at Great Stirrup Cay, which makes this an excellent deal for a 2-night cruise. The packages don't work at Harvest Key over in Belize if your itinerary does include that, but on this one, everything was included. Next, I wanted to check out a little bit of the ship, see what was new. This was the first time that I was on a Breakaway Plus class ship. I've been on the Getaway in the past, but it's been a while, so I wasn't familiar all that much with the design of the ship. And then I found the go-kart track, wanted to explore what that looked like, because this is definitely the most unique offering on this class of ship. Available for just $15 per person per race. Races last between 6 and 8 minutes, depending on the race that you do. I thought that maybe I could pre-book this and just have a set time to return, but unfortunately it is first come, first serve, and I did find it to be quite busy during those times, so just keep that in mind if you're someone who really does want to do this on a shorter sailing. Most of the sailings on the Joy are a little bit longer than what I had, so you probably have an opportunity to do so, but it does get quite popular, so get there early, try and reserve a spot as early as possible. There's also a number of different rules and regulations with what you can wear, so just keep that in mind. They have pamphlets there just to help you get around and understand what you're actually getting with your race. Next up, I wanted to explore the spa. The spa is usually open for tours on Embarkation Day, so it's really the only chance that you can get to check it out without having to pay. The Norwegian Joy does have a brand new spa complex. This is part of the renovations from 2024. They didn't have a thermal spa or thermal suite before, so this was definitely a good addition because I know it's quite popular with people, so we'll check that out. It's also a good time to enter the spa raffle if you want some discounts on some spa treatments on board. Always good to enter. It's drawn a few hours later in Embarkation Day, so just keep that in mind. But overall, you can check out the full spa tour on my Norwegian Joy full ship tour available on the channel, and I'll link that down below. Wanted to find where the medical center was, just in case anything went wrong, on deck 13 here on Norwegian Joy, so very interesting there. They do have some machines that dispense some medicines and things like that. But after that was done, just exploring the ship a little bit more, seeing what was open to check out. Wanted to check out what the kids area looked like. Didn't have my kid on board with me on this voyage, but always cool to see what offerings differ between the different ships and even different cruise lines. So definitely has a nice little kid area here. They separate them out into 3 different groups here at the Splash Academy, and then they have a whole teen area up on the upper deck. Next, it was time for lunch. I wanted to go head up to the buffet and see how absolutely crowded it was. And it always is at lunch on Embarkation Day, but a number of different stations here. Food looked, pretty edible. Not the most amazing looking pizza I've seen on a cruise ship. That was reserved for MSC for sure. But a bunch of different stations for people. And if you're not too picky on food, I think there's a lot of options here. If you're someone who likes to enjoy their Embarkation Day up on the pool deck, I would say try and get on board as early as possible and reserve your beach chair. These definitely get busy, and once the bars open, it's just kind of a free-for-all. You have the sailaway parties here, so this is a very busy area, very loud area on Embarkation Day. Not an area that I typically hang out at. If I want some sun, I'm usually on the deck above, where I can hear some of the music going on, but I can still hear my own thoughts, but that's just me. With the crane out of the way, it was almost time for lunch for me in the main dining room. I decided to skip out on the buffet because it was a little too busy for me. Wanted to see what the main dining room restaurant menu was on Embarkation Day, though. Hadn't decided yet what I was doing for dinner on this trip because I do love the specialty restaurants on board these cruise ships, and so I ended up opting for teppanyaki the first evening. But here is the menu for the Manhattan room and all of the other dining rooms on board. 3 dining rooms on board the Norwegian Joy. It's all freestyle cruising, so no set dining times, which makes things a little chaotic. Here's the Embarkation Day lunch menu. I didn't find a ton of options that I was really excited about here, but I did opt to go for a nice salad and then a Philly cheesesteak because I just thought that was interesting to order and see what that tasted like, and then a little flan action for dessert. But a very small, intimate dining room here. Taste and Savor are the twin restaurants in this part of the ship, and then you're going to have the Manhattan room as the bigger, more traditional dining room. So just keep in mind, I didn't find that this food was particularly amazing for main dining room food. But by the time I was done with lunch, it was time to explore the cabin. So I have an ocean view cabin on this voyage. Just me sailing, so plenty of room for me. I really was impressed with the bathrooms on Norwegian. I felt like there was plenty of room just to get ready. You had a nice large sink right here, and then you had a tub and shower combo, which some people may not like, but I think it's great for families being able to have a bath there. And it was nice to have a real door when you're taking a shower, keeping all that moisture and warm water in versus some of the other cruise lines that just give you a shower curtain and the water gets all over the place. So, did like this bathroom. Room itself was fresh and clean, felt nice and new. You had a nice small flat screen here that swiveled out. It wasn't really aligned with the bed. I felt like they could have maybe moved this more center to the bed, but a nice full-size mirror there for getting ready. And then 2 twins that are pushed together to form a queen. You do have a little bit of storage space here in the closet with your safe. Overall, I don't really find too much difference between different ships and different cruise lines in their standard room accommodations. The only difference there being Disney. I found like Disney's designs for especially families are really, really incredible. And I wish that other cruise lines would kind of adopt the split bathroom model. But these are perfectly fine for 1 or 2 people sharing. I think once you get into the 3 and 4 people, having one bathroom and not a ton of room to move around can be a little burdensome. But did like that the room was able to be separated by a curtain here. So this is a family ocean view room. I was assigned it randomly because I just put the guaranteed cabin on this one. So this is the room that Norwegian assigned me. I was down on deck 5, which is the lowest public deck. And I did find that the location was a little tough just because a lot of the activity on this ship are on the upper decks. It was very convenient getting to 6, 7, and 8, which are all the indoor decks. But I found myself really going up to the upper decks a lot. And the elevators, typical problem with most of these big ships is that they were usually slammed, hard to get an elevator sometimes. So just keep that in mind if you want to maybe have a more centrally located deck. Maybe being on decks 9 through 13, 14, 15 would be a little bit easier for you, being able to go up or down only a couple of decks. So that would be kind of my advice there. Small minibar here with some waters as well that were an extra charge. And then a hairdryer, which was really nice. And then I did have a decent window here. Not the biggest ocean view window I've ever had, but plenty fine, definitely bigger than a porthole. And we were really close to sail away. I knew we were because we had a lot of ships in port with us and they started sailing away while we were still docked, so I knew we were pretty close to setting sail. Carnival ship in the distance passing us. I always love this because 1, all the other ships are very massive as well. It's fun to wave at other people enjoying their vacation. With that, I decided to grab a sailaway beverage, which was a custom made by Terrapin Brewing NCL beer, which I love. Love custom beers. But we started departing and we could see the MSC Seascape right next to us. I will be on board the sister ship, the MSC Seashore, next month, so look for videos on that in just a bit. Excited to sail Yacht Club for the first time. Check that out for y'all. And if you're interested in booking any of these amazing cruise ships, we book travel here at Jackson Jetsetting. You can work with me personally on finding the perfect cruise for your next vacation. I book every single type of brand. It doesn't matter to me. I just help you pick the right one for you or your family. Excited to help you out, so reach out to mark@jacksonjetsetting.com for more details. Now, the ship I was most excited to pass by was Icon of the Seas. I was happy that she was still moored when we passed by This is the world's largest ship currently. Her sister ship, Star of the Seas, is coming out this August. I'm booked on the very first sailing, so look for content on that. But this is a massive ship. I'm so excited to experience this type of ship from Royal Caribbean soon. So look for all that on the channel. I don't think there's a better sailaway than Miami, Florida. It's just absolutely gorgeous seeing Fisher Island over to the right and South Beach over to the left. I think it's a very dramatic view and just amazing from these super tall ships sailing by. You're almost as tall as some of the skyscrapers on the beach, so it's really a lot of fun. I love Miami for this reason alone. Now after sail away, it was time for another beverage, and I had done some research on this ship, but didn't realize that the District Brew House was a bar option on board, and I really loved this place. I didn't realize how many beers they'd have on tap. They had one of my favorite beers, the Funky Buddha Hefeweizen, so I was a happy clam the rest of the voyage knowing that this existed. Great bartenders, never super busy on this voyage, so very good place to get a drink. And they had this enclosed area with a lot of natural light coming through, which is just a theme of this ship, is that they do a great job of bringing in all the things that you go on vacation in the Caribbean for, which is natural light, great weather. You don't only have a ton of beers on tap, but you also have a beer fridge that you can choose from. And of course, this is all included in the beverage package if you have it. So a lot of different options. You can ask the bartenders what they got. The menu on the screen was not really up to date, so it's best just to refer to the bartenders there. And you can use the beer to play some of the fun games that they got here in the bar. Now let's check in with Past Me on how things are going. Sail away, all of the fun things that cruising's all about. Thought the DJ was really great on board. And then booked teppanyaki for tonight, and then a bunch of entertainment going on the rest of the day. So we're gonna go check that out right now.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, yeehaw. All right, there we go. Then let me show you some Japanese helicopter all the way from the Philippines. Yeah.
Now, I am a sucker for hibachi. We had a great chef. Not a busy restaurant. This is normally a hot ticket on Royal Caribbean ships, so I was surprised to see that. Though it was a short sailing, and I'm sure people were kind of balking at the price. After everything, about $77 with tip, which is very expensive, I think. Overall, not as great of a food experience as other cruise lines that I've had. But overall, you get what you pay for. It's a fun experience, a fun time, and it lasts about an hour, hour and 15 minutes. Really good steak option that I had, some chicken, and then a little green tea dessert with some ice cream. So overall, a great time. And then I was off to the first entertainment of the evening. I went to the PG show for the comedian. It fit in more with my schedule. Usually prefer the R-rated shows, but he was really great. They used the nightclub as also the comedy club there. So that was really fun. And then they had the Beatles Revolution Act on board in the theater. So no actual like welcome aboard show. They do play in the Cavern Club as well if they're not in the theater. So definitely check them out. They were very good. Then I was a little hungry after all this activity, so I went over to the local pub and grabbed a Reuben. Absolutely delicious and open 24/7. So it was a quick wake up. We actually lost an hour because of daylight savings, which was no fun. And so it was time to get on board a tender and head over to Great Stirrup Cay. One tip to deal with the tenders is if you book the earliest zipline excursion, your excursion ticket is actually your fast pass on the tenders. You can skip everyone in line and get onto those tenders because they want to make sure that you make your excursion. So that is a nice tip there for you. It's always fun getting on these tenders because you can see how massive the ship that you're sailing on actually is, though it is kind of an operational nightmare with how many people are on board these ships. I see why they are building a pier here, so happy to see that. Once I got on shore, I headed over to the lighthouse, which is where the ziplining excursion takes off from. I did a full tour of the island on the channel as well. That's up and down in the description. So if you're curious on just what's available at Great Stirrup Cay, you can check out that video. I check out everything there possibly could be done on the island. But here we're going to show you exactly what the ziplining experience looks like. You check in, sign your life away, and then they set you up with some nice little carabiners and safety equipment. They give you a little safety demonstration how exactly the zip lining works. Then you head up a scary freight elevator, which is in the middle of the lighthouse, and head up to the very top level and start your tour. 2 different ropes courses. You can do both for one price. That's what I did for about $159 per person. I think both are worth it for the views alone, though the Seahawk zip line is going to be a little bit more fun because you have the longest of the zip lines, you have a few ropes course activities, and I just think that overall it was better bang for your buck. The Osprey zip lines may be for people that are a little bit more scared of this, but want to still jump into the zip lining activity. So both are great. I think it's fun to do both, but if you're choosing one or the other, I would say Seahawk was probably the best. Overall, both courses only took me about 45 minutes to do, and I was going last on my excursion, so it's not a crazy time commitment for your day. I went on the first one, so there was no backup or anything like that with other groups, but you have some amazing views of all the beaches here. 3 different public beaches plus Silver Cove, which is a private beach destination here on Great Stirrup Cay. And I just had an amazing time ziplining over the water. This compares a little bit to Labadee zip line, though not nearly as long. The Labadee zip line is very long, I think the longest over water zip line in the world. But this is a great option on the island. It's one of the only activities on the island that you can pay extra for and still be close to the beach. There's other excursions off island that you can definitely participate in. But on the Seahawk zip line, you're climbing through these ropes bridges that are kind of crazy. Then you're heading up this ropes tunnel to get up to the next platform, and that's completely unbuckled in. So if you're someone who's definitely afraid of heights, I would skip the Seahawk and just focus on the Osprey course, which is a little less intense. But both zip lines are going to have this final zip line returning you to the lighthouse tower. Once you're back down from the tower, there are a few different fun and free activities here on the island. There's a small putt-putt area, really just like a real grass putting green. Of course, there are a ton of beach chairs here on the island. There were 2 ships in port on our day, both using tenders, of course. So the beach chairs did get a little taken up towards the middle of the day, but there's still plenty. You can still find one for sure. If you want one of these cabanas, they seem to go pretty quickly as well, but they provide a few more extras for you. I think if I was in the market for a cabana, I would only do one over in the Silver Cove area because it is so exclusive over there. You have your own restaurant, your own Moet and Shandon bar. They have 1 and 2 bedroom villas, believe it or not, over there. So pretty nice. They have spa treatments at the Mandara Spa. Lots of fun options here at the island, though, without the Silver Cove experience. So over here at the end of Lighthouse Beach is going to be a few food options. You have a taco truck with some ceviche and some pork sandwiches, fish sandwiches, that sort of thing. Another bar. And then beyond that is going to be the Cabana Beach. And the Cabana Beach you can use. It's going to be a little bit more quiet because it is furthest away from the ship. But plenty of public facilities over here. I think the most activity is going to be happening closest to the ship right as you get off, and I'll show you all that. Here's a look down the beach back to our ship, and this is the furthest that you can go as a public guest without paying for that Silver Cove experience. So you have 3 little inlets here. It's really a gorgeous island. Not a ton to do compared to other private islands in my opinion, but a very, very nice experience and a very relaxing beach day. I will say that things did get a little busy later in the day in terms of getting food or getting a drink. There's a long lines for all that stuff, so just keep that in mind. I do think that they need a few more bartenders, a few more bars here on the island to be able to handle so many people on the island at one time looking for the same thing. But if you're just looking for beautiful blue water, they definitely have it here. Some powdery sand as well. Just absolutely gorgeous time here at Great Stirrup Cay. I like the beach volleyball setup here right next to the Bacardi bar. They have a number of different branded bars here on the island, which I thought was kind of cool. So they have a Patron bar, they have a Bacardi bar, Moet and Shandon bar over at the Silver Cove. Really a cool spot to just enjoy a cocktail, get a handshaken daiquiri like I did. And it's all included in your beverage package if you have it. Paddle boards are for rent as well. They have floating mats. They have kayaks, so a number of different opportunities to get out on the water without paying all that much. But just a few other free beach activities here, like the swing in the water. That was a very popular spot. You can see the lineup of guests there waiting for their turn to take a iconic photo of Great Stirrup Cay there. A little bit of construction going on here, but overall, very relaxing day. I did want to review the food on the island. I waited until it opened at 11:30. Come take a look. Overall, the line wasn't too long, but it did take forever for people to make their way through the buffet style line. Here's a look at the menu. But you're going to have your typical island food. You're going to have some burgers and hot dogs, as well as some jerk chicken, some pizza, which didn't look all that appetizing in my opinion, and a few different island style salads. Overall, I didn't feel like the food was all that good. Unfortunately, I've had much better included food on private island destinations from other ships and other cruise lines before. So after that, I did head back to the ship, so I did want to maybe have a different type of lunch. So it did take a little bit of time to make my way through the line and then get on board the tender here too. Loading into the tender pretty quick, but it did take a few minutes for us to get going finally. And then it did take a ton of time to get off onto the Joy, because not only are you dealing with swells from the ocean, it's one gangway with the whole boat that has been loaded up for the tender, and then you have to clear security once you get in there, so that area gets bogged down. So this is why tendering is just really not all that great, and I'm glad that they are fixing this on the island. Back on board, I wanted to check out the go-karts and had a great time. Couldn't film on the go-karts because I needed a chest strap for my GoPro. Also needed that on one of the water slides on board. The other water slide, which is the Aqua Loop, is the most intense of the water slides on board. There's a lot of stipulations on who can ride, so I do think that you want to make sure before getting too excited that you qualify to ride. You do have to bring the right equipment too, in terms of like your wearables. You can't have anything on you. I had to take my wedding ring off, for example. Couldn't have my button on my shorts even, so I had to tear that off to ride. And people actually get stuck on this because they're not heavy enough to get over that hill. So a few problems here, but overall a really fun time on this Aqua Loop water slide. Just a very intense ride, so just keep that in mind. First news to get on a cruise ship is the disembarkation time. So it is the second night of the cruise. It's a very quick cruise, really only for people that are local, I think. But I did still have one more night, so I wanted to enjoy myself. I went over to Cagney's, which is the ship's steakhouse. A number of different steakhouse options really on board with different themes. You have an ocean blue seafood experience, which serves steak. You have the French restaurant that serves steak. So overall, if you want steak, you can definitely find it. But I always like to compare the steakhouse to other cruise ships. And overall, this was a pretty big disappointment for me. The steak itself looked nice, but when I cut into it, it was very tough. Lots of tendons and things like that. So overall, not a great time, I think, and the menu itself wasn't too wowed by. Service was good, everyone was, super nice, but overall, I just probably would tell you to skip this one, especially for the price. Again, priced at $60 plus tax and tip, comes out to over $70 for one person. Elements was the show this evening, and it was pretty nice. They got involved inside the audience, which was pretty cool. But overall, not a big focus on entertainment in the theater for Norwegian. Everyone seemed to be enjoying dinner when I was walking around the ship, which was nice. Long day on shore for sure, but wanted to check out Cellars, which is the wine bar on board. And then I walked into Q, which is the barbecue restaurant, and they had a country western band going on, which was awesome to see. They had a few games going on in the atrium, which is a 2-story venue. Do wish that they moved that actually into the theater, but I did want to try the pretzel bites, which were delicious, as well as the chicken wings. Then they had karaoke going on board, and the nightclub too, so lots of late night activity on this ship. But overall, that was my time on board. Disembarkation super quick. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you on the next voyage.